Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam.
Hi, welcome to the 12th session in the course HRM for non-HR managers. The previous session we discussed the basic considerations in compensating the employees through pay, prerequisites, rewards and incentives. This structure of employees compensation also needs to be within the legal provisions. There are various legal provisions under several categories and this differs from countries and sometimes even the states. In this session, we are going to discuss about the laws related to compensation management. Let us look at the objectives of these provisions. This session aims at giving an overview about laws related to employees' compensation. The laws are there for implementation by all HR managers. Therefore, it is important for you to be familiar with them. These laws specify which industry they may apply to. The government also creates machinery for monitoring whether and how far the employers comply with the provisions. This is done through inspection and self-declarations. All industries or business establishment must maintain the records in prescribed format which should be submitted to the concerned authority as per the law. All the laws provide for penalty and punishment for not maintaining the records and non-compliance with the Act. The objective of this session is to familiarize you with the laws applicable to compensation of employees. The laws we will introduce in these sessions are Minimum Wages Act 1948, Equal Remuneration Act 1976, Payment of Wages Act 1936, the Maternity Benefit Act 1961, Employees State Insurance Act 1948, Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952, the Payment of Bonus Act 1965 and the Workmen's Compensation Act 1936. These are in no specific order. Let us start with Minimum Wages Act 1948. Minimum Wages Act 1948 is applicable to the whole of India. Its objectives are to provide for fixing wages in certain employment, to secure the welfare of the workers by providing for a minimum limit of wage in certain employment, the appropriate government to fix the minimum wages. Separate minimum wages may be fixed for employment classified in different schedule, different classes of workers and different localities. This may also be different for skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled workers. Every employer must pay to employees engaged in scheduled employment at a rate not less than minimum rates of wages as fixed by government. Under this act, following register has to be maintained: register of fines, annual returns, register of overtime, register of wages. Equal Remuneration Act 1976. It is extended to the whole of India. Its objective is to provide for payment of equal remuneration to men and women workers and for prevention of discrimination on the ground of sex against women in the matter of employment and for connected or incidental matters. The employer is not permitted to discriminate against women who have been employed for the same work as their male colleague. All the employers must maintain a register and all documents in relation to workers employed by them. Payment of Wages Act 1936. It is applicable to whole of India. It applies to the payment of wages to person employed in any factory, railway, in any industrial or other establishments like tramway, motor transport, dock, wharf or jetty, mines or quarry, oil field, plantations, workshop or any other establishment where articles are produced or manufactured, establishment engaged in construction, development or maintenance of buildings, roads, bridges, generation and transmission distribution of power or other establishment declared by government. It is not applicable to the military establishment. Objective of this act is to regulate the payment of wages of the employees drawing average wage up to 18,000 per month. This act also prescribes the time of payment of wages. If the number of persons employed in an establishment is less than 1,000, the wage shall be paid before the expiry of 7th day, and in the case of number of persons employed is more than 1,000, the wage should be paid before the expiry of the 10th day after the last day of the wage period. The employer must fix a wage period which shall not exceed 1 month. Payment of wages should be made on working day and should be paid in cash or deposited in the employee's bank account before expiry of the wage period. The act allows the employer to make deduction. Examples are fine, deduction for amenities and services provided by employer, advances paid, excess payment of wages, loan, grant for house building or any other purpose, income tax, PF contributions, cooperative societies, premium of life insurance, contribution to any fund constituted by employers or a trade union, recovery of losses and contribution toward employee state insurance. Every employer must maintain following registers and records. First, detail of workers employed, wages paid to the workers, work performed by them and deduction from wages and receipt given by workers. Next is the Maternity Benefit Act 1961, which is applicable to all women employees directly or through contract, temporary or on ad hoc. This act is applicable to mines, factories, circus, industry, plantation, shops and establishment employing 10 or more persons and other establishment if the state government decides so. Objective of this act is to protect the dignity of motherhood and to regulate the employment of women in certain establishments for certain period before and after childbirth and to provide for maternity benefit and certain other benefits. When a woman is expecting a child and has worked for her employer for at least 80 days in the 12 months immediately preceding the date of her expected delivery, she becomes eligible for the benefit under this act. The act provides for benefits such as 26 weeks leave with full wages, a medical bonus if the employer does not provide free medical care to women, an additional leave up to 1 month in the case of illness arising out of pregnancy, delivery, miscarriage or premature birth. In case of miscarriage, 12-week leave is available. A woman who legally adopts a child below the age of 3 months is also eligible for benefit. The mother is entitled for a maternity benefit of 12 weeks from the date of child is handed over to the adopting mother or born to a commissioning mother. There is a provision for leave for miscarriage and tubectomy operation as well. In the case of miscarriage or medical termination of pregnancy, 12-week leave, and in case of tubectomy operation, a leave of 2 weeks is granted with full wage. Non-cash benefits are extended under this act as well. On request by expecting mother, employer should provide her light work before and immediately after joining the work after the child work. 2 nursing breaks are provided in the course of her daily work should be given until the child is 15 months old. No discharge or dismissal can be handed to the mother while she is on maternity leave. No change can be made to her disadvantage in any condition of her employment while on maternity leave. Pregnant women who are discharged or dismissed may still claim maternity benefit from the employer. Employees State Insurance Act 1948. This act is extended to whole of India. It applies to all the factories including government factories, but excluding seasonal factories which employ 10 or more employees and carry on manufacturing process with the use of power, and 20 employees where manufacturing process does not use power. It has also been extended to shops, hotels, restaurant, roads, motor transport, and government can include any other industry by notification. All employees drawing wage up to rupees 21,000 and employed directly or through contract are covered under this act. Benefits under this act is included like medical benefits. The ESIC schemes provides full medical care in the form of medical attendance, treatment, drugs and injections, specialist consultation and hospitalization to insured person, and also members of family who are declared as dependent on insured person. Sickness benefits. Sickness benefit represent periodic cash payment to an insured person during the period of certified sickness when insured person requires medical treatment and attendance while remaining away from work on medical grounds. Maternity benefits. Maternity benefit is payable to an insured woman in case of confinement, miscarriage or sicknesses arising out of pregnancy. In the event of the death of the insured woman during confinement leaving behind a child, maternity benefit is payable to her nominee. Disablement benefit provides periodical payment to person who sustains temporary disablement for not less than 3 days and to a person who sustains permanent disablement. Dependent benefits are payable to the dependents in case where an insured person dies. Other benefits like funeral expenses, vocational rehabilitation, free supply of physical aids and appliance, preventive health care and medical bonus are also covered under this scheme. Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. It is extended to whole of India. It is retirement benefit provided to workmen who have rendered long and unblemished service to the employer and also contributed to the growth and prosperity of employer. The objective of this act is to provide for gratuity to the employees engaged in factories, mines, oil fields, plantations, ports, railway shops and other establishments which are employing 10 or more workers. Gratuity is a financial protection to industrial workers against the risk of old age. An employee is entitled to payment of gratuity on rendering of 5 years of continuous service, termination, resignation, retirement or death. The completion of 5 years of service is not compulsory in case of death or disablement. A formula should be applied to calculate gratuity. The wage should be calculated at the rate of 15 days wage for every completed year. The maximum limit is of 30 years. A month comprises of 26 days. Calculation of gratuity is then equivalent to monthly wage multiplied by 15 divided by 26. The amount of gratuity shall not exceed rupees 20 lakhs. The amount of gratuity for seasonal workers should be calculated at the rate of 7 days for every completed year. All employees must provide detail of nominees within 1 year of employment. Compulsory insurance. All employer other than establishment belonging to central government and state government must obtain insurance for his liability for payment toward gratuity under this act from Life Insurance Corporation of India. Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. This act is extended to the whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir. It is applicable to factories, all establishments, mines, hotels, plantation, oil field and hospitals, banking and clubs, central and state governments employing 20 or more workers. It is not applicable to cooperative society. Central and state governments are empowered to include any other establishments by notification. Any establishment employing even less than 20 persons can voluntarily choose to comply with the provisions of Employee Provident Fund Act. The objective of this act is to provide retirement benefit to employees and also to their dependents in case of early death of the employee. It inculcates the habit of saving among the workers. All employees who are employed for work of an establishment or employed through contractor are eligible to be covered under the Act. The wage limit is rupees 21,000 under this Act. Contribution under this Act is made by employees and employer both. The employee has to contribute at the rate of 12% or 10% as the case may be. The employer has to contribute the matching amount. The Employee Provident Fund Act provides benefits to its member through following schemes: the Employees Provident Fund Scheme, the Employees Pension Fund Scheme, and the Employee Deposit Linked Insurance Fund Scheme. Under the Employees Provident Fund Scheme, the employees has to contribute 12 or 10% of his pay as contribution. The employee can voluntarily contribute above the statutory rate. However, the employer does not have to match the voluntary contribution when it is over and above the statutory rate. Out of employer contribution of 12 or 10%, the employer's contribution of 8.33% will be diverted to employees pension scheme. The balance will be retained in the Employee Provident Fund Scheme, which will be given to employee on retirement with his or her full share, and the balance of employer's share along with the interest, which is decided by government. And the Employee Deposit Linked Insurance Fund Scheme provides life insurance benefit to the employees of any establishment or class of establishment to which this act is applicable. The employer has to contribute at the rate of 0.5% of the wage of employee toward the scheme. The employee does not contribute any amount toward the scheme. By way of the benefits to nominees of employee, if an employee dies during employment, his nominees or family members get an amount which is decided by the government. Presently, that amount is 6,50,000. Employees pension scheme is an entitlement for pension after retirement or after the age of 58 years. In the case of death of employee, his family or dependent will get the pension. The Payment of Bonus Act 1965. This act is extended to whole of India. It is applicable to all factories, establishment employing 20 or more workers, drawing monthly wage up to rupees 21,000. It is applicable to all employees, skilled, unskilled, technical or in administrative, except workers working as apprentice. However, employees of LIC, universities and educational institutions, hospitals, Chamber of Commerce, Reserve Bank of India, Indian Federation of Commerce and Industries, UTI and social welfare institutions are not entitled to bonus under this act. The objective of this act is to provide for payment of bonus to persons employed in certain establishment on the basis of profit, on the basis of productivity or production. An employee who has worked for a minimum period of 30 days during the calendar year is eligible for bonus. The minimum amount of bonus will be 8.33% of the salary, which can be maximum up to 20%. For computation of gross profit, the available surplus in respect of any accounting year shall be gross profit for the year after deducting income tax, other direct taxes, depreciation as per section 32 of income tax, development rebate and further sum as are specified in respect of the employer in the third schedule. Limit applies to the payment of maximum bonus if during any accounting year if the allocable surplus exceeds the amount of minimum bonus payable to the employees, the employer shall be bound to pay to every employee in respect of that accounting year bonus, which shall be the amount in proportion to the salary or wage earned by the employee during the accounting year, subject to a maximum of 20% of salary or wage rather than the minimum bonus. In computing the allocable surplus, the amount set up shall be taken into account and the remaining surplus will carried forward for being set on in the succeeding accounting year and so on up to and inclusive of the fourth accounting year to be utilized for the purpose of payment of bonus. The bonus should be paid within 8 months from the close of accounting year. Disqualification for bonus. An employee shall be disqualified from receiving bonus under this Act if he or she is dismissed from service for fraud or riotous or violent behavior while on the premises of the establishment, or theft, misappropriation or sabotage of any property of the establishment. The Workmen Compensation Act 1936. It is extended to whole of India and applicable to all factories, mines, plantations, transport, construction workers, railway and other hazardous occupations. Establishments which are covered by the Employee State Insurance Act are outside the purview of this Act. It is also the first social security measure undertaken in India. This Act ensures the workmen and their dependents some relief in case of accidents arising out of and in course of employment and resulting in either death or disablement of workmen. The objective of the Act is to provide for the payment by certain classes of employers to these workmen of compensation for injury by accident. This Act covers all workmen who are engaged directly or indirectly in the above establishments, but it is not applicable to casual workers and members of armed forces. All employees are entitled for compensation under the Act. The compensation is payable even if there is no fault of employer or even in the case when workman is found careless. Employer's liability to pay compensation to workmen is determined by this Act. Upon death or personal injury resulting into total or partial disablement or occupational disease caused to workmen arising out of and during the course of employment, the employer is liable to compensate the employee. Calculation of compensation under this Act is subject to provisions where an injury leads to death of a workman. An amount equal to 50% of the monthly wage of the deceased workman multiplied by the relevant factor, or an amount of rupees 1,20,000, whichever is more. Where permanent total disablement result from the injury, an amount equivalent to 60% of the monthly wage of an injured workman multiplied by relevant factor, or an amount of rupees 1,40,000, whichever is more. Where permanent partial disablement result from the injury, compensation is paid in proportion to the loss of earning capacity. Where temporary disablement, whether total or partial, results from the injury, a half monthly payment of the sum equivalent to 25% of monthly wages of the workman to be paid. While calculating the compensation, higher the age, lower the compensation. The Act also spells out the conditions when an employer is not liable to pay compensation. Any injury which does not result into total or partial disablement of the workman for a period exceeding 3 days does not create the employer's liability to pay. Any injury not resulting in death or permanent total disablement caused by an accident which is directly attributed to the workman being under the influence of drink or drugs at the time of accident, or willful disobedience of the instruction as per the rule for safety of workmen, or willful removal or disregards by the workman of any safety device also absolve the employer from the obligation to compensate the worker under this act. The report of the accident should be submitted to Commissioner within 7 days. With this, we are coming to the end of this session. If you are interested in knowing more about these provisions in depth, please feel free to use the references we have provided. You can also solve some of the problems to check if you have understood the provisions and their formulas correctly. Also, please note that the first quiz will be available for you to complete. It will contain objective style questions. Please revise what you have learned until now. Good luck and see you soon. Thank you.